Today, we're going to dive into the mind of Stephen Hawking. Here's a man who journeyed to the absolute edges of the universe, to the beginning of time itself, all without ever leaving his wheelchair. It's an incredible story about how he completely reshaped how we think about reality.
And this was his whole mission, right from the start. Think about that ambition. He wasn't just trying to solve one little puzzle. Hawking truly believed that we, as humans, could figure it all out, that a complete theory of everything was actually within our reach. That one powerful idea is what drove his entire life's work.
So where does a mind like that even come from? Well, to really get who Stephen Hawking was, you have to go all the way back to his childhood. And you'll see that the sparks of his genius weren't in his report cards, but in this just relentless need to know how things ticked. What's so funny is that if you looked at his schoolwork, you'd never have guessed. His grades were, just okay, his handwriting was a mess, but his friends, they saw something totally different. They actually nicknamed him Einstein. Why? Because he was the kid who was always taking things apart, clocks, radios, you name it, just to see the gears inside. He'd get into these deep debates with his buddies about where the universe came from, and he even invented these ridiculously complex board games. One had like 4,000 squares. For him, it was always about finding the rules that govern the system. He was actually born on a pretty significant day for science, exactly 300 years after Galileo died. His family was known for being brilliant, but also a little quirky. His dad drove an old London taxi as the family car just to save a few bucks. And by the time Stephen was just 17, he was already at Oxford, ready to tackle physics, because for him, that was the most fundamental science of all.
Now at Oxford, Hawking was brilliant, sure, but he was also famously lazy. He figured he probably worked about an hour a day, if that. But then, as a grad student at Cambridge, his entire world, and the world of physics, was about to be completely turned on its head.
At just 21 years old, he got the diagnosis, ALS, a truly devastating motor neuron disease, and the outlook was just brutal. He said it himself, to be told I had an incurable disease that was likely to kill me in a few years was a bit of a shock. Suddenly, the one thing he thought he had plenty of, time, was running out.
Before the diagnosis, Hawking said his life was just very bored. But staring death in the face, that changed absolutely everything. The real turning point, though, came when he met a woman named Jane Wilde. As he later put it, their engagement gave me something to live for. If they were going to get married, he needed a career, and for that, he had to finish his PhD. So for the very first time in his life, he actually started to work. And to his own surprise, he absolutely loved it.
And with this incredible new sense of purpose, Hawking's mind was just unleashed. While his body was beginning to fail him, his intellect was embarking on this unbelievable journey to the very beginning of time and the deepest corners of space.
Okay, so a lot of his early work focused on one of the weirdest ideas in all of physics, the singularity. Just think of it like this. It's a point so dense, so extreme, that our normal laws of physics just completely fall apart. The Big Bang started as a singularity, and it was thought that the center of a black hole might be one too.
So, working with another physicist, Roger Penrose, Hawking first proved that Einstein's theory of relativity meant the universe had to have started from a singularity. But then came this brilliant flash of insight. He realized that the math you used to describe the universe expanding could just be run in reverse to describe a giant star collapsing. Now this was huge. It connected the study of the entire universe with the death of a single star, and it meant a black hole had to have a singularity inside it. But he didn't stop there. In 1974, he made what's probably his most famous discovery. By blending quantum mechanics with black holes, he proved they're not totally black after all. They actually leak a tiny bit of energy, what we now call Hawking radiation, and can eventually just evaporate. It was the first big step toward connecting the two pillars of modern physics, relativity and quantum theory. Just amazing.
That work made him a legend in the physics community. But his next move was going to make him a household name all over the world, probably the most famous scientist since Einstein himself.
He decided to write a book for the rest of us to explain the universe's biggest mysteries in a way we could all understand. That book, A Brief History of Time, became this massive global phenomenon. It stayed on the bestseller list for 205 weeks. That is almost 4 years. Millions and millions of copies sold.
And he had this fantastic dry wit about his success. Someone actually told him he should cut the book's famous last line, the one about knowing the mind of God. He flat out refused. He'd joke later that if he had cut it, the book's sales probably would have been cut in half. He just got what it took to capture people's imagination.
But this was never just about fame or selling books. For Hawking, this was all part of the ultimate quest, the search for a theory of everything, a single, beautiful set of rules that could explain the entire cosmos, from the tiniest atom to the biggest galaxy.
And that quest led him to ask some of the deepest questions you can imagine. Like, were we getting close to a final theory? Was it possible that the end of physics as a field of discovery was actually in sight?
And let's say we found that theory. What would that even mean for us? He really grappled with it. If you know all the rules, can you predict the future? Is everything, from planets orbiting a star to the choices we make, already written in stone?
And all of that brought him to the biggest question of them all, the one that sits at the very core of our existence. Why is there something here instead of just nothing? For Hawking, this wasn't just some late-night philosophical question. He believed it was a question that science could one day answer.
And that right there was Stephen Hawking. For him, this search for knowledge was the most important thing we humans can do. Here was a man confined to a chair who couldn't speak without a computer, yet he used the pure power of his mind to travel to the beginning of time and into the heart of black holes. He totally expanded our vision of what's possible, and he showed all of us that the human drive to explore, well, that has no limits at all.